Hello, everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Welcome, listeners, to today's vital discussion on parenting and ADHD. We are honored to host Dr. Adwoa Akhu, a renowned clinical psychologist and author specializing in stress management and inner peace, with a wealth of experience and knowledge in the field of psychology. Based on her professional and personal experience, Dr. Akhu will share valuable personal insights into the challenges and triumphs of parenting a child with ADHD. Her perspective is sure to shed light on the complexities and the joys of parenting when ADHD is part of the mix. Welcome, Dr. Akhu.
Thank you so much for having me, Carol. I'm so excited to be here and look forward to sharing all things about ADHD with your audience.
Wonderful. So why don't we start with you just telling us about your work and as a clinical psychologist and how the ADHD factors into your work and your life.
Okay, definitely. Well, I've been a clinical psychologist for probably about 30 years now. And I started out in education, although I've done many things in psychology. For 15 years, I was the school psychologist for Brooklyn Job Corps Academy. Job Corps is a national organization that is charged with educating young adults, teenagers, 16 to 26, to help them with trades. And so my job was reviewing IEPs and helping people, including people with ADHD, settle into school and have all the support they needed. And then in my private practice, which I had for 23 years, I had a number of young people, teenagers and adults that were also living with ADHD. So I had some professional knowledge of ADHD and education and was supporting people. But then when COVID hit, my youngest child identified that they have ADHD, which was not very clear before that, not typical signs, not a lot of H in terms of hyperactivity. And they were really having a lot of difficulty with that quick switch to virtual learning, and really distraught in tears. I have to say, practically suicidal. And, that's really, of course, disturbing for any parent. But especially disturbing for a psychologist. We expect our children to not have these kinds of issues somehow because of what we do, which is, of course, not logical. Children have all sorts of issues. But I realized that I needed to bring my professional self, like all the things that I knew about ADHD professionally, but I also needed to bring the mommy. And so I did a deep dive. I went to the Amen Clinic to have my child evaluated, but then I also did a 50-hour course with the Amen Clinic that was all about brain health and development and brain scans and ADHD. So I learned a lot. And then after that, every training, every book I could get my hands on, I soaked up the knowledge so that I could help my little one. And I was able to. We were able to turn a corner with deep empathy, with skills that I learned from the Amen Clinic and from all the research that I did. I was able to help my child settle in and finish the semester well, the school year well. And we actually got closer as we're navigating this road together. It's brought this bond and this closeness because we're in this together. To figure it out together. We're partnering. And that is so precious to me to be able to have that with a teenager. Like how many people say they have that with a 15-year-old? I know I didn't quite have that with my first was 15. So it's really been an amazing, amazing road. And so now I love helping other parents and adults with ADHD figure out the puzzle. I love puzzles. And I see this as a puzzle, and I have all of these pieces, and they have all these pieces and this brilliance, but don't know how to put the pieces together in the right order in order to make life smoother and easier.
Yeah, and that can be very affirming and empowering for any child, but certainly teens, because that's already a season of great transition for them where they're trying to figure things out. So that's wonderful. And I think a lot of parents really will probably get comfort from that because, and particularly if their children do have ADHD or ADD, and they wonder how they can reconnect. They know it's possible. So what are some common misconceptions that people have about children with ADHD, and how can parents and educators kind of debunk these?
Thank you. And we could do a whole episode just
Okay.
on the misconceptions, but well, I'll
Hmm.
stick to three of them. One, that ADHD is only a childhood challenge.
Okay.
And the reality is that ADHD is often first recognized in childhood, but
Hmm.
adults have ADHD. And there are a lot of adults, especially around my age, in the 50s, who may have ADHD and may have never had it diagnosed,
Hmm.
but have some common challenges. So understanding that although it is often diagnosed in childhood, and first recognized in childhood, that it's a lifelong learning challenge. It's a lifelong difference in the brain.
Hmm.
So that
Hmm.
would be one. Two, that you have to have medication in order to address ADHD. For some
Hmm.
people, medication is helpful and needed, but even if you're using medication, you still usually need other supports, other lifestyle
Okay.
changes, um,
Hmm.
creating schedules. There are a lot of other lifestyle tweaks that need to be made that help medication be more effective. And
Right.
some people can manage ADHD without medication if
Hmm.
they have the right tools and
Okay.
put the right pieces in place together, they can manage without medication. But that's something that, sometimes people are afraid to find out more because they don't want to deal with the
Medication.
medication. And I guess the third thing, this one's kind of controversial, so everybody won't agree with me. I am a clinical psychologist, and as a psychologist, we are doctors, we are in the medical field, we've fought in many ways to be considered doctors. So everything psychologists do is considered a disorder. You have to have a disorder to
Mm.
right? That's how the medical world kind of works, that you have to have
Right.
in order to get treatment. So ADHD is considered attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Hmm.
But as we've learned more, we realize that there's all sorts of neurodiversity.
Hmm.
I'm dyslexic. I don't like to think of myself as having a disorder, and
Hmm.
nobody wants to think of themselves as having a disorder. Right?
Right.
So I see my dyslexia as neurodiversity.
Hmm.
ADHD is also neurodiversity, and I think it helps us. I
Hmm.
understand why it has that label, but I think it helps us when we think more of it as neurodiversity and less as a disorder.
Okay.
Our children have disorders.
Hmm.
Children don't feel good about themselves when they consider themselves having disorders. So I've renamed ADHD as attention difference hyperactivity difficulty, because
Okay.
those D's soften it and really
Hmm.
make it much more approachable and acceptable. And this is how you're wired. If you have
Right.
ADHD, this is how you're wired. And
Hmm.
feeling like you have a disorder doesn't really help. Understanding that you do have a difference and you have to figure out ways to live with that difference. But when you
Hmm.
do, you can thrive. And ADHD also comes with often a lot of superpowers, things that people are very gifted at doing.
Hmm.
Everybody focuses so much on the challenges and not on the
Right.
gift, that
Hmm.
people with ADHD often feel very bad about themselves. And so it's really
Hmm.
important, I think, for us to change the language and focus on the strong things, the superpowers. And you still have to address the challenges, but not
Hmm.
to spend so much energy just focusing on them, because people don't feel great when they feel broken.
Right. Good point.
We'll be right back after this.
If you're looking to reach a massive audience of parents and caregivers, then look no further than ProPix by the Parenting 411, the ultimate marketing program designed to skyrocket your brand to new heights. With ProPix, we've created 3 incredible packages to suit your marketing needs and budget. So let's take a look. First up is our social starter package. You'll receive a stunning graphic promo piece, plus we'll also feature your brand on the Parenting 411 Instagram page. It's the perfect way to make a memorable first impression and get parents buzzing about your business. Now, if you're ready to level up, our Parenting Pro package is where it's at. You'll enjoy all the benefits of the social starter package, plus more awesome benefits, including exposure on the Parenting 411 podcast, which reaches parents in more than 22 countries each week. But wait, there's more. For those seeking the pinnacle of marketing power, our Elite Exposure package is the way to go. You'll get even more exposure across our platform, including thousands of followers and connections on LinkedIn. Get ready to dominate the airwaves and establish yourself as the go-to resource for families everywhere. Take advantage of Pro Picks by the Parenting 411 today and unlock unparalleled marketing opportunities for your business. But I should tell you that prices are set to increase on November 1st, so act now. Pro Picks by the Parenting 411 is your passport to the hearts and minds of parents. Visit ProPicksbyP411.com. Join us today and watch the magic happen.
And we're back with the Parenting 411.
And because we know that people, and especially children who have been diagnosed with a quote disorder or a difference, because we know that they, often struggle with that and being labeled, and then also just struggling to figure out how to manage, how to work with what they have. How do you maintain a supportive environment and understanding at home to accommodate your child with ADHD?
Good question. Good question. I think first, everybody needs to find their supports.
Mm-hmm.
To figure out who's your support, who can you talk to about this, and have a good conversation where you're going to get the support you need and not have somebody that doesn't quite understand, that's going to, you end up leaving that conversation feeling bad. So for me, it's one of my best friends. I can talk to her about this stuff, and we understand parenting. We understand being in a long-term marriage. So we have so many similarities that it's really helpful to brainstorm and to have that kind of support. Certainly supportive communities are helpful. That's what I'm building is a community of support, because not everybody does feel like they have somebody that understands. Sometimes there's a lot of pressure to put a child on medication or not to put a child on medication. And sometimes it can be so noisy, it's hard to figure out what you want to do. So providing parents with a space and a place where they can sort through what they want to do is one of the things that I provide. And there are also wonderful organizations that you can go to get support. So figuring out your support system, I think is so wonderful. And figuring out your personal support. Like, so you need your support system to understand and deal with ADHD, but as a parent, you need to take care of you. Right. In order to be centered and solid so that you can take care of your family. So making sure that you take care of yourself. Like on the airplane, when they say put the oxygen mask on you first.
That's right.
It can be so hard for parents, especially when our children are in pain and when our children are challenged.
Right.
So focused on taking care of them that we can forget to take care of us. But if we fall apart, we can't be there for them.
Right. And, and thinking about your a child with ADHD, how do you balance the understanding of what the challenges that they have, and at the same time providing structure and discipline?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. And it really requires, I'd say, listening to your inner guiding voice in every moment.
Right.
So I encourage parents to set up a basic structure. Right. So whatever the system is, for example, chores. My little one, I'll use myself, our family as an example. My little one has certain chores. It's important for children with ADHD to set those systems in place. And sometimes we have to remind, but usually once you get a system solid, it's in there. Right. It's a lot of energy to get the system set up and started. Once it's in there, It's in there. So our system, when my little one comes home, take your Chromebook out of your bag and go plug it in. Take your lunch things out, put them on. We have the same space on the counter. That's your responsibility to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
My little one has also been not feeling well, right? She has a virus. So understanding this virus makes them tired. They come home from school and they're exhausted.
Right.
So you can get angry that the chores weren't done. Like these are your responsibilities, or you can be understanding and decide, where do you want the energy to go? I want this kid to have enough energy to get homework done. It's more important than these other things. I also don't want the system to break down though. So what I do in that case is, today mommy will take care of these chores. So that we're using words. So that we're all clear, we're all on the same page. This is still your responsibility. I'm acknowledging, I know that you've had a long day in school, that you're still feeling sick. So I'm going to do these things for you. And I want you to make sure that you use that energy to do your homework. And what I find is that really works very well, that parents so don't understand that our children want us to be proud of them.
Right.
And that has a lot of power. So when you're well connected with your child, and you understand that, then my saying, use that energy for your homework. Now my kid is like, my mom just helped me out. She didn't yell at me for not doing this stuff. She helped me out. Let me get that homework done. Right? And that's exactly what has happened here. I've seen it happen. But parents, you have to think about it, and you have to be aware and ready with that system. So when things break down, we talk about it. Sometimes you can't talk about it in the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
There's too much breakdown. But what I always try to do, like you do for sports, there's a game, then they review the videotapes after, and they talk about it, figure out how to do it better, and they do that in business. Well, we do that in our house also. When there's been a breakdown of the system, and sometimes the emotions are so high charged, and there are tears, and we don't exactly know what's going on. Once things calm down and we get through that, and I try in that moment, I think, what's going to help us get through this? And I try to be as supportive as possible. And sometimes I'll even say, I'm having trouble being supportive here. I'll verbalize it so that they know, they don't have to guess. But then afterwards, we come back and we talk about it, and we talk about, okay, so what was going on? And my child will say, I was so overwhelmed, I couldn't even have words. I couldn't even ask you for the help that I needed. And this happened recently, and I said, would it help if I made it multiple choice? Said, if I help you with this, if I help you with that. And she said, I don't know, but maybe the next time they were like, I could see that they couldn't get the words out. I made it multiple choice. Would it help if mommy did this, this, and this? Okay, I will do this, but then I expect you to do that. Can we agree on that? And it worked like a charm. So being able to be mindful that it's going to come up again, to talk and try new strategies, and being willing to try new strategies also, because this kid is changing, you're changing, life's changing, things change, and you have to kind of be willing to pivot. But it's challenging.
Right. And speaking of that, what would you say are the most pressing challenges for parents of children with ADHD? And this can be, whether it's from your personal experience or with others that you encounter in your practice, and what kinds of resources are out there to support them in this? I
think big challenges are not understanding, especially if you don't know about ADHD. You don't have, if you haven't had it and lived with it and have been diagnosed with it. And so really understanding what's going on. Now, I hear parents all the time say, well, when I was a kid, I was able to blah, 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 blah. I don't understand why my kid can't blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's come out of my mouth.
Yes. And it's especially hard to understand why this brain is so different. So accepting the brain is different and trying to understand from your child as much as you can. And, they can't, depending on how old they are, they can't articulate everything. But trying to get the inside understanding as opposed to making assumptions is so. Navigating school. That's another challenge. it's so important to, as soon as possible, and this is where a diagnosis can be very helpful in getting the forms from school so that you can get your child extra time on exams.
Mhm.
My child has the opportunity to take 5-minute breaks during exams, right? A minute to gather themselves again and be able to focus again, because it's hard to focus. And some of these exams can be, SATs and so forth, are very long, hours long,
Right.
to
Mhm.
give them an opportunity to refocus. And of course, the accommodations will be based on your particular child and their particular challenges. But knowing that you can advocate with the school
Mhm.
for those challenges, but very often you have to ask. Right.
Right.
Sometimes teachers will know, but teachers don't always know a lot about ADHD either. And they have, lots of kids, so they may not understand. Understanding that sometimes when children are chatty and disruptive, that is actually a sign that they are living with ADHD. And so figuring out things, advocating with the school so that the school has a plan,
Mhm. Mhm.
and staying in touch with the teachers
Mhm.
and really fighting for your child to get
Right.
everything they need. And that's, it's one of those challenges, but that's why we have to take care of ourselves so that we can have the energy to fight for our kids. So I think that that's
Absolutely.
the other most important thing. And then also, I guess third would be figuring out the best kind of treatment that fits for your child and your family and your beliefs. So as I
Mhm.
mentioned before, some people it's medication,
Mhm.
for others, it's supplements. It's
Mhm.
definitely lifestyle changes, and
Mhm.
figuring out how those lifestyle changes impact your whole family.
Right.
Have more than one child, and only if you have 3 children and only one has ADHD and the others don't, then you have to have family conversations about why things may be different for this child and
Mhm.
how everybody needs to get what they need, and
Right.
what everybody needs is not the same, and really have those conversations so that kids aren't left feeling resentful um,
Mhm. Mhm.
about their sibling that might be getting more of this, and
Mhm.
help them understand, but you might get more of that, right?
Right.
But if you don't have the conversation, if you don't keep the communication open, then the resentment can build up and you don't may not even realize it. So finding ways to make sure you communicate with your children, and striving when you can to balance some of those things out. So if one
Mhm.
child has ADHD and is getting a lot of attention, one day you might take the other one out. I had one parent, this is what I suggested. Take the other one out. You two just go to the movies, just the two of you. Give that
Right.
child some individual attention. And I think that's
Mhm.
something that all parents should do.
Well, I was going to say with all of the children, yeah, that's something I did too. Mhm.
Give them individual attention, especially I would imagine because you have twins, right?
Mhm.
Especially that, imagine when they're the exact same age and so many things are happening together all the time. It's so important to give them a little attention, and you get to know more about who they are and what's going on for them
You
when you
sure
have them
do.
in one space. So
Mhm.
it's universal for all parents.
Mhm. Mhm. Now I wonder, do you find because I have both of my children have various degrees of ADD, but what about parents, how they can support their children? We've talked about school, we've talked about what you can do at home, but that may struggle socially.
Yes. Before I don't want to forget to answer that question, but I want to make sure I address an issue that because you just used ADD. And I think
Hmm.
it's important information for all parents to understand the differences between ADD and ADHD.
Hmm.
And this is another one of those things that's kind of controversial, but I think that it's important to talk about. The
Hmm.
H, which is the only difference between ADD and ADHD, is the
Hmm.
hyperactivity. And what we're
Hmm.
finding out is that for some children, that hyperactivity, that H, is very visible. They're fidgety,
Hmm.
they're all over the place, they're interrupting conversations because they can't, hold their words in. For other children and for other adults, the H is more internal. It's more
Hmm.
their thoughts jumping around. So it's
Hmm.
not as visible, but it doesn't mean the hyperactive isn't there.
Hmm.
So the two are really so much the same, and it's just controversial. ADD, ADHD. What's important to understand is that we're really talking about the same thing here.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
many of the strategies go for both. So, and I know that's something that can be confusing for some parents. When I'm talking saying ADHD, they think, but my child has ADD, right? So, and so many people focus so much on the hyper
Right.
active part when there's so many other aspects of this neurodiverse way of living. So,
Mhm.
and of course, now that I said all of that, I forgot your question.
How to support them socially,
How
if
to support them
and
so.
how, or actually how it might affect them socially and what parents can do.
Yes, and again, that depends on the particular makeup for the child.
Mhm.
So if the child is hyperactive, really busy, and they can have difficulty listening to their peers. So
Mhm.
practicing communication skills with them,
Mhm.
practicing how to be a good listener, right? But when
Mhm.
your brain is jumping around, that can be hard. So
Mhm.
practicing that with them, helping them identify some of those challenges, because they may not understand, well, why is it that people don't like me, that they don't want to have lunch with me? Well, because you don't stop talking ever. And they don't get a word in edgewise. Um,
Uh-huh.
Gentle, and I use a lot of humor. I find humor works very, very well.
Uh-huh.
Gentle, humorous ways to help them be more aware, self-aware.
Mhm.
Self-awareness really helps, because then they can start to see where the challenges are and helping them find good matches for them.
Mhm. Mhm.
But again, having communication around that, and sometimes supported, right? So
Mhm.
if you have a child that's really having difficulty, then you might want to set up play dates where you can be in support. It can help you identify some of the challenges
Right.
and help you help the child find ways to mitigate them. So
Mhm.
setting up a play date and having them do a puzzle together, and you're sitting there doing the puzzle also, you can see how they're interacting, and then
Right.
you can gently say, well, let's give so and so a chance to talk, or let's give them a chance, or let's take a break now and then come back to the puzzle, those kinds of things. So that
Mhm.
you're going to be doing is you're going to be teaching your child these
Mhm.
things about themselves and how
Right.
to balance them out in life, because this is not going to go away. The same person that is 5 years old that's talking 3 zillion miles an hour in and is not a good listener, they're going to be 30 and 50 the same way, unless they
Yes.
are mindful about
Mhm.
then really thinking, okay, I need to let this other person talk now, and finding ways to do that, breathing, using some breathing exercises so that they can ratchet things down a little bit, asking questions that they're really interested in,
Mhm.
the answers to, there are different ways of helping them, but it really depends so much on the particular makeup of that child. So
Mhm.
that's where a little expert guidance can be very helpful.
We'll be right back after this. Are you a parent looking to unlock your potential in raising confident, capable, and courageous children? Well, look no further. Join us at the upcoming Parent and Purpose Summit Back to School Edition, where parenting experts from around the world will come together to share their wisdom and insights. I'm Carol Maletta, founder of the Parenting 411. This summit is your opportunity to gain essential skills and tools to become the parent you've always aspired to be. Over 5 incredible days, we'll dive deep into topics like positive discipline, effective communication, mental health, self-care, school readiness, and more. An attendee from our last summit told us, "This summit changed my parenting game. I feel more confident and connected with my children than ever before." So secure your seat at the Parent and Purpose Summit today. Visit parentandpurposesummit2023.com. That's Parent and Purpose Summit 2023.com. And click the registration button to join us on this transformative journey. The Parent and Purpose Summit, where intentional parenting begins. And we're back with the Parenting 411.
And how about some ideas? I mean, so that was very useful. I mean, in terms of helping your child interact better with playmates and all of that. Let's talk about family dynamics in terms of things that parents could do to help to create a little more harmony and understanding around family members when there is a child there who has a ADHD.
I think, again, communication is number one. And
Mm-hmm.
assuming that people know and understand, but having open lines of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Some families I've worked with, they will do, like once a month, they'll have a communication time where the family sits and they talk about some of the challenges, and they try together to come up with solutions. So that's important. You don't want it to just be a bashing of one person in the family, that this has to be a solution focused thing. So
Right.
when so and so, I keep going to talking all the time. I don't know why that's the thing on my mind. It is talks all the time, and I never get a word in edgewise, and it's so hard. I don't want to be around them because they're talking to, just they won't ever shut up, and it's never quiet. So then what can we do as a family in order to balance that out? Can we, set up a space in the family room that's a quiet space, right? And we know that if somebody's sitting down there, we leave them alone, right? Can we put a sign on the door, like but make it a family problem solving situation. And
Right.
the idea that as a family, we're a family, we're a unit. We have to figure this out together. And I think if you, as parents, if we lead, like in anybody leading a company, right? They set the tone. As parents, if we set the tone that we're in this together, and that doesn't mean that we have to like each other all the time, but it does mean we have to figure out how to work as a family unit. Then kids will follow through with that. And we support them in that. We support them in figuring out, how do you disagree without becoming mean and disagreeable? How do you talk about that? It's a golden opportunity, actually, for children to learn how to be better friends and communicate better when they have somebody that they're living with all the time, and they have their parents helping and modeling that. So it's really about, I think the main thing is communication. If we can help them communicate, if we can communicate with them, if we can help educate and help families, members understand, well, this is a challenge, but if you need some research done, your brother is so good, so excellent at researching things. That's his gift. So, you may not be so good at doing this. You might have to remind your brother gently to pick up his glasses and put things away. But research is great. So if you want some help with your homework with research, I'd suggest that you talk to your brother. So finding that power, and also helping the family see that and use that.
Now, I would imagine with your background, obviously in clinical psychology and the work that you do with women, you have a few strategies for parents in terms of helping them to just handle moments when they're overwhelmed and just aren't sure what they're doing and how they're going to get through this. How can you share some of those?
Yes, definitely. Being overwhelmed as a parent is sometimes a daily thing. And so again, knowing yourself and what you need to be your baseline best, and having some tools for when you're ready to pull out your hair, having a few tools. My favorite tool is breathing. Deep breathing is so helpful. The way our brains and bodies are wired, we have this fight, flight, and freeze system. The fight, flight, and freeze system is the same system that gets activated if a big bear were to come running in the room and attack you, or if you're taking a big exam, or if you're really frustrated with your child, right? And when that system gets activated, the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that's in charge of executive functioning and organizing and thinking, starts to go offline. And it's done like that for a great reason. If a bear were to attack you, you don't have time to think, oh, should I run?
Should I run left, right?
Exactly. If you do all of that, be bear lunch, right? So you don't have to do that. So the brain is designed to shut off thinking and go by instinct. That works great in a bear attack. It doesn't work so well if you're taking an exam or if you're with your children. The only part of this system, the fight, flight, and freeze system, that we are in control of is our breathing. We don't control how fast our hearts beat. We don't control our liver releasing glucose into our bloodstream so that we have the energy we need to run, but we can control our breathing. So when you take at least 4 deep breaths, and they have to be deep belly breaths. We tend to breathe up here in the top of our lungs. You take at least 4 deep belly breaths. You tell your fight, flight, and freeze system, there's no emergency here. Calm down. So when your child is throwing a tantrum in the middle of Macy's, or or in my case, when my little one was crying and telling me how distraught they were,
Right.
that was triggering my fight, flight, and freeze. what do you mean that you feel so bad you wish you didn't exist? Like, how can that
Mhm.
be? What can I do? That
Mm.
was totally tricking it.
Mhm.
Breathing. Because I was able to breathe and I knew, I had the skill at the ready, I started doing deep breathing, and that was what was it helped me to listen. And
Mm.
then, once I calmed down and I could hear, then I could think of other things that we could do and other ways I could support. But when you're in that agitated, angry, or frustrated mode, you can't think of anything. And you
Mhm.
can't be there. You can't fully be present either. So
Right.
breathing is the number one thing I say everybody needs to do. And teaching breathing to children is actually, especially children with ADHD, but children that have any
Mhm.
difficulty regulating, and all
Sure.
children do at some point have
Mhm.
difficulty regulating their emotions, is so helpful. One of
Mhm.
my favorite ways to teach little ones is to
Mhm.
have them lay down and to put a little toy like a boat, something light on their tummy.
Oh, okay.
Is to help it go up and down. Just
Mhm.
watch it go up and down, but that teaches them to really focus on deep breathing,
Right.
the
Right.
bottom of their lungs. And it's
That's a
kind of
good
fun,
idea.
something that you
Mhm.
can do as a whole family. Um,
Mhm.
and it's really helpful because then, in a moment where your child is losing it, you,
Right.
they have the skill now. So you can say, okay, this is a time where we need to breathe. Let's breathe together. Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
that I've done personally and that I've helped other parents learn to do. Let's breathe.
Right.
Let's take 4 deep breaths.
Mhm.
Let's breathe together. And then usually then they can get regulated again and
Right.
able to think, and you can now actually communicate with them. When anybody is at the height of emotion, when
Mhm.
they're having a full breakdown, you can say whatever you want. It's not getting in, it's not helping it. You can't help anybody. But if you can get them
Exactly.
calm enough,
Mhm.
together, you can start partnering in solutions. So breathing is number one.
Okay. Now, I have really appreciated all of the tips and strategies you shared today. How can we follow the work you're doing and keep up with you in the future?
Well, I do a couple of different things. The first one is I am a speaker. So
Mhm.
I love going into organizations and helping staff with cultivating inner peace, helping them figure out how to not let stress, which everybody has, become toxic
Mhm.
stress. And so, as a speaker, the easiest way to reach me is drakhu.com, DRAKHU.com.
Okay.
For ADHD coaching,
Mhm.
I have a separate website, which I do coaching groups for adults and college students and for parents that are
Mhm.
living with ADHD. And
Mhm.
so there it's CIP, which is Cultivating Inner Peace, the
Mhm.
number 4, ADHD, CIP for ADHD.com.
Okay.
So either place, and then of course you can email me if you just have a question, which is Dr. Akhu at drakhu.com, DRAKHU at drakhu.com. And let me say there's some freebies on the CIP for ADHD website that
Mhm.
I've a few things, a couple of ebooks that I've written for parents to really help them better understand, because I think everything starts with understanding. It's hard to figure out what to do and how to help if you don't even understand.
Mhm.
So there's some supportive things that are totally free that I hope will help the parents that are listening.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And to our listeners, I hope that you will be sure to follow Dr. Akhu. I think that really any of us could use what she has to offer. I mean, whether you have a child with ADHD, but also just the strategies for creating inner peace for yourself. I think we all can use that. I think we all can agree with that. And continue to follow the Parenting 411 on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you'd like to circle back and watch the video of this interview, you can check it out on our channel. Love to have you do that. Also, visit theparenting411.com. That's where you can keep up with what I'm doing. And also, you can reach out, make connections with me there if you would like. And also, I would encourage you, if you too work with parents and children and families, and you'd really like the Parenting 411 to showcase you, we have a program called ProPix, and that's where we introduce parents and families around the world two experts and people who are interested in enriching the lives of children and supporting families. And so you just need to visit propixbyp411.com and learn how you can do that. We will use our platform to let as many families as possible know that you are there and ready to help them. And I also ask you to always remember that it's never too late to be the parent that you want to be. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.